Welcome one, welcome all to DeFi Crypto and Airdrops. I am Mike, aka Veteran Crypto, and this is Jeff, aka the Blockchain Report. How's it going, brother?
Going well, going well. We got a little heat wave here in California, so it's been like a nice little sauna. So it's great. Got to spend some time this afternoon with my aunt and uncle. Had a nice lunch. Helped them out with some stuff around the house. So it was a good time. How about yourself?
Nice. Doing
Enjoying
all
that
right.
nice creek,
Oh
cold
yeah,
plunge.
yeah. I went down and just did some clearing the forest here on the property, and so it's nice. I got the creek that goes through the property and a little swimming hole, so I can if it gets too
Mm.
hot, I can take a dip and cool off, and then get back to work. But
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah, no, I did that, and then today I had to run to the dump. Living out here in the country, they don't come out and get your trash. You have to take it to the dump yourself. So did
Mm.
that and grabbed a couple of things from the store while I was in there. But other than that, just been a pretty chill day. But
Nice.
so I want to jump in real before I kick it over to you for socials and
Hmm.
just kind of go over what we're going to talk about today. So I want to do a quick update on Plume. I mean, those of you that watch us know that we're very bullish on Plume, and they actually officially announced that this week they are going live, mainnet. Those that have been watching us also know that we have
Mm.
been killing it, and those that have listened have been killing it with Plume pools as far as liquidity pools and earning huge amounts of money doing that. I myself went from $1,500 and just from earning yield and compounding it back in, turned 1,500 into 5,000 over the past about month and a half, 2 months. So, been loving the liquidity pools on Plume. Um,
Mm.
and then, of course, we're going to do a deep dive on Keeta. It is a newer project to me. It has recently gone through a pump, so we're a little late to the party. And it was actually mentioned in to me by TJ from Discover Crypto. He just kind of mentioned it briefly, and so I started doing a deep dive because he said it was a DeFi play and an RWA play. And so I started doing a deep dive into it and really liked what I saw, and have since when put a decent chunk of my yield that I've earned in my liquidity pools into buying a good chunk and have it in a liquidity pool earning free KTA. So that's what we're going to go over today. So real quick, if you want to take it away and
Mhm.
do the socials, then we'll kind of dive into things.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thanks everyone for joining us on this beautiful Saturday. Hopefully it's beautiful wherever you're at, but we appreciate you taking time out of your weekend to join us um, here at DeFi Crypto and Airdrop at DeFi Crypto Airdrop on YouTube. And you can follow where we go live Monday and Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can follow our brother channels, Discover Crypto, Blockchain Basement. I think if I there's one more that's missing. BitLab Academy, Vet's channel, Life, Liberty, and Liquidity. He goes live Sunday nights, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and they get into all kinds of topics, life topics, finance, all kinds of crazy conspiracy stuff. It's a whole host of fun times. They smoke
Yeah,
cigars
yeah.
and drink a little whiskey, but and my channel, the Blockchain Report, and you can catch us on X at the only DCA, the underscore only underscore DCA. And you can follow Vet at Veteran for Crypto. And we also go live on X as well. And if you want to join the chat, and you have to have the blue check mark on Twitter in order to participate in the chat. So if you want to come over to YouTube, we have a lot of people in there. And you can follow me at the BCR142. Make sure you're following the right accounts. If somebody reaches out to you that looks like us or asking for to invest your money, we're not going to ask you for any investment advice or anything. So just message us in case, because I've had people message me saying, "Hey, is this you?" And I say, "Nope." I tell them that that's not me, spam. So just be safe. Don't send your crypto to anybody, and don't give your seed phrases out to anybody. Because I had somebody in my Discord. Oh, in our Discord, let me pull that up. We have our Discord. the DeFi crypto airdrops. And the link to all of our socials are in the description. So you can go straight to the description of our videos. And yeah, so be
Awesome.
safe, Fu.
No, we got a lot of new names. It looks like we might have some. I don't know what the Keeta community calls themselves, but it looks like we might have some new faces in here. So it looks like Cherrywell, one of our regulars, is going to have to check out the replay. But Ja War, welcome.
Hmm.
Crypto Tony, welcome, welcome. Robert, Crypto Anonymous. We got Carlito B. That looks like a Keeta lover, and we got Scallywag, and it looks like again another Keeta follower. And let's see,
Keytards. Oh man, do they have
Cryptoni.
NFTs? Like a Keytard NFT or something? That would
I
be hilarious.
somebody said that they call themselves Keytards.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Because I know it in the Sonic. So Sonic has these derps, and they're these like funny little cartoons that have these like derpy looking faces. They're like, "Ooh." So I I wonder if, and it's kind of a fun way of getting like a community following, like a little cult following. So I
All right. So until I
no,
hear
no if
different,
it's
I'm going to just refer to the the Keeta community as Keytards. So.
the
Um,
keytards.
All right. So yeah, no, to answer your question or to answer the question, somebody was saying something about it being like a layer two on ETH or something. That is not the case. And we'll get into that. But that's what we're here for. Is we're here to learn. So, and I'm sure that I'm going to learn a little bit too because I'm new to Keeta. I just did, been spending the past day or two doing a deep dive, and to be honest, I'm going to use a little bit of AI to make sure that I get my facts straight. I have some bullet points that I'm going to be reading off of just because I want to be sure. I like to be accurate. So
Hmm.
with that, let's go ahead and jump into the news a bit. But as always, I like to start with DeFi Llama. So anybody that's in DeFi, this is a tool that you must have and you must use. You must bookmark it. Any sort of analytics or data that you want to find about DeFi, you are going to find here. And as you can see in the overview, where I like to start, I always like to look here to see how the market's doing. So in the blue, you can see that's TVL or total value locked in all of DeFi. And in the green, you can see I turned on the DEX volumes. And so you can see that we've been steadily, since the beginning of May, we have been steadily increasing on our DEX volumes. So, that is a good indicator that we are ramping
Hmm.
up. Something, I'm starting to see and hear a lot of things. Before we went live, actually, here, I'll touch on this first. RWAs. We are up to 23 billion of TVL, on as far as RWAs or real world assets, tokenized assets. You can see private credit, U.S. Treasury debt, all of it, commodities, everything is starting to go parabolic. This is a huge narrative. If you watch the Bitcoin convention
Nice.
repeatedly, over and over, almost every speaker at some point brought up DeFi. If it had to do with Bitcoin or not, you know, or they brought up RWAs or the tokenization of real world assets and institutional interest in this. They're all building on it. They are all adopting and they are all investing. Prices might be dumping, but over the counter purchases, in fact, I'll just pop right over to it. Um, let's make sure I'm in my bookmarks because I
That
bookmarked this
was
right before we went live. So
uh,
ETH and Sol staking ETFs could be approved in June. Bloomberg analysis says they may skip the 19B4 process and get green lighted within weeks.
ooh.
As everybody knows, this administration is a very crypto friendly, and they're streamlining these processes. Another one that I saw is BlackRock actually invested. Oh man, I wish I would have bookmarked that one. But I'm wanting to say it was like a couple of $100 million worth of ETH, if memory serves. And it was breaking right before we went live. So, another big piece of news. Word on the street is that Plume, bouncing over to Plume, the SEC meeting. So they met with the SEC. So everyone that was talking about that, Plume dumped and yada yada yada. There is nothing but bullish news coming out of Plume. Their CTO,
Hmm.
their chief technology officer, died the other day. Very
Yeah,
sorry to hear it.
RIP, their
Yeah,
co-founder, yeah,
one
CTO.
one of the one of the three original founders. Yes.
Yeah.
So prayers with them. But they actually announced they are going live this week with mainnet. So you haven't seen anything from Plume yet. It's everything has been speculation
They
as
were
far
supposed to go
as
live this week,
this
right?
week. So they
Mhm.
officially announced they're going live this week. It was supposed to be last week, but
Or this past week.
with the death
Yeah.
of their friend, they postponed it. So I don't pay attention to price. I look at fundamentals. And again, that's why I like Keeta, and that's why I like Plume, and that's why I like Ondo, and that's why I like Aerodrome. Yes, Aerodrome dumped from $2.20 at one point down to 30 cents, but the fundamentals haven't changed. Therefore, my bullish take
Mhm.
on Aero has not changed. Plume, they have done nothing but improve as far as fundamentals. I am very bullish on Plume still, because it dropped a couple of cents. I'm not going to bail on a solid project. So they met with the SEC, and basically the Stablecoin Act plus the tokenization regulations plus Plume's mainnet launch equals Plume is about to full send. To be determined. That's definitely you know in the eye of the beholder. Same guy, not telling. If you're not following, not telling, when it comes to RWAs and DeFi, a must follow. But this KTA stuff is getting very interesting. Here are the facts. They are backed by a former CEO of Google and top 50 world's richest people, Eric Schmidt. So he knows tech, he's very rich, and he's investing in it. And we're going to get into the details of Keeta here in a minute. Fastest blockchain in the market, exhibiting 10 million transactions per second. That is huge. Founder Ty mentioned 7 major partnerships, with one of them starting with an S, could be Stripe. Could be. Many people are saying KTA is this cycle's soul, meaning buying today is like buying soul at $2. Again, that's objective or subjective. I'm grabbing a position just in case. Could either be in the top 10 by the end of the year or go to dust, but I do wish back at $2 sold that I bought some. Let's see what else we got here. Yep, Plume Dip is a gift. Apollo is invested. Binance is invested. Galaxy is invested. Quan Ventures is invested, and they met with the SEC again. Bullish. Plume Genesis. So these, and I'm not going to go like to the actual sites on these, but these are the dexes that are already live. They're just waiting for mainnet to go live before they start accepting liquidity and things like that. But you have Ambient Finance, Galaxy Finance, Raven Swap, Zoomy, Rooster Protocol, and Stratus Exchange. And I have them all bookmarked and ready because I'm going to be jumping on them.
Mhm.
But this shows you how entrenched and how trusted this platform is. They have 5 dexes ready to go live as soon as mainnet goes live. Like Base didn't even have that. Like Base, like
Mm.
Aerodrome, Morpho, Moonwell, all of those,
Yeah.
they weren't all ready when Base went live. So this is huge. and Plume has over 180 partners, Ondo being one of them. So I mean, this is
Mhm.
not a fly by night company or a fly by night project. I want to emphasize that.
No, I'm glad you are bringing these up because today's perfect because I spent the afternoon with my aunt and uncle who are in their 70s, and I showed them, I walked them through how to buy crypto on Coinbase, with your bank account, and then send from Coinbase to your wallet. And I showed them my Plume pools and explained to them the liquidity pools and how I related them to traditional finance and the stock market, and basically you're earning dividends off of the money that you're supplying in these pools. And they were asking questions, and they just found it really fascinating how you can earn that much on these liquidity pools. And I explained to them Plume and why I picked that project as one that I heavily invest in because it's backed by all these institutions. It's building a good product. It's got the partnerships. It hits all these metrics that you're not just going to invest in some fucking shitcoin just and put all your money in hoping it's going to moon like safe moon and then
Yeah,
crash and then you lose everything because they kept asking like what are the chances of you losing everything. And I said, there's always a chance, but if you do it right and pick these projects intelligently, then you're going to be set. You don't have to worry about if Microsoft goes down 80%. And they had Cisco stock in 2008 and 9 that they said went
hmm
from $80 to $9, and they were lucky that they pulled some money out a few years before to buy their house, so they would have been even more fucked. But I told them even if you hold these assets, like Plume, that I have one liquidity pool that's out of range. I said, hey, I can hold this asset even if it goes down. I'm still holding the asset. You're still going to hold that stock if it goes down 50% in a
yeah,
recession. So, and I can still earn off of this too if I decide to rebalance. But you can set a full range. I was telling them if you don't want to manage it, you can set a full range. You'll earn
yeah.
very low APY, but it's something. It's much better than a CD, right?
Well, I'm actually going to be helping my lady this week. She wants to move some of her traditional, investments over into DeFi, and I'm going to build her
Mhm.
a, maintenance-free DeFi portfolio of
Mm.
lending and full range positions to where she can just check it every once in a while and see if she's making money. She doesn't have
Oh
to,
yeah.
be rebalancing and, doing, any kind of craziness. She can just earn, a nice steady 20, 30, 40, 50% and just 24/7, 365. And that's what we're about here on this channel is either free
Hmm.
money through airdrops or, mailbox money or residual income in DeFi. I mean, because that really is the way to, to change your life is, having something working for you while you sleep. I believe it's Warren
Yeah.
Buffett that said that, basically you're going to be broke until you figure out how to make money, when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
All right. So, this one, Plume, um, it is one of the few other than Cardano that I have heard of that is going to have native Bitcoin on chain. Not wrapped Bitcoin, not Coinbase wrapped
Oh.
Bitcoin, but actual native Bitcoin. So you can see through this Yala, BTC can now flow seamlessly into DeFi and RWA yield without
Mm.
compromise. And on Plume, that mission becomes real. Real assets, real yield, real Bitcoin. That is huge because whenever you hold Coinbase wrapped Bitcoin or wrapped Bitcoin, my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you are holding a representation of Bitcoin. You are not holding Bitcoin. So that is an important distinction. That it's supposed to have equal value, but it is not actual Bitcoin. So it's important to understand. Yeah, Danny, I wouldn't go that far. I'm not going to compare the two. Um, it's
Oh,
Keeta's
Keeta Plume.
not better than Plume. They're doing different things. They're both in the same kind of use cases, but Plume is more of a picks and shovels for RWA and DeFi, where it adds functionalities that those don't have natively, and a ton of partnerships. Keeta, it has a lot of good things going for it as well, and it's important to understand kind of what each of them do individually. We're not into tribalism here. We're just into finding gems that are going to earn us money.
Yeah, and it's a different tech that it's built on. It's a DAG based
Yes,
architecture. So,
Keeta is a DAG based, and we will definitely get into that because it's one of the things that really caught my attention about Keeta. All
hmm
right, so centrifuge. Centrifuge is huge because it's actually part of the Plume arc, which is allowing. It used to be where if you wanted to tokenize a real world asset, it would take programmers and potentially months to do it. Whereas with Plume Arc, it will be live day one when Plume goes live in minutes. You can click, do a couple of clicks, and you can tokenize real estate. You can tokenize commodities. You can tokenize stocks. You can tokenize art. You can tokenize any and all real world assets and fractionalize them. So, like my cousin, he owns a shipping company where they have like the big shipping container vessels. And he's been talking to
Mm.
me about, wanting my help with tokenizing one of their shipping vessels. It's a $5 million vessel and they want to
Whoa.
tokenize it so that they can fractionalize it so they can get in, basically investors, make it liquid so that they can get that capital because they want to buy another ship. And so, when I started telling him about this stuff, it piqued his interest. So anyway,
Oh,
Nest credit, it's all of these that are flashing on the screen here, all part of Nest. BlackRock,
what's in the bottom?
all this RWA plays. They're all Blackstone, PayPal,
hmm
Apollo, Digify, Carlyle Group. All of them are part of Nest Credit. So that Nest Credit is building on Plume. Another huge one. This is what this tells me is all of this is going to be TVL. It's all going to be liquidity that is going to be injected on chain on Plume, and Plume has the interoperability, just like Keeta, it has the interoperability to move it across multiple chains, through layer zero. So it's going to allow that liquidity to move freely throughout the markets. And Keeta and Plume can work together, just like Ondo and Plume are working together and other RWA plays. It's basically connects them all together. It's like the internet. It's like, one website doesn't own the whole internet. You have websites and yeah, they have a larger market share like Amazon or Google or something like that. And they're worth more, but they don't comprise the whole thing. A lot of people can play in this market. So, there's no need to pick one or the other.
hmm
Man, it's we're already halfway through. All right, I'm gonna cut the news short. I could go on and on about this, but let's go ahead and jump into Keeta because it
Yeah.
so so this is the chart for Keeta. Up until what is it, May 7th, it was only 12 cents. And it did quite the pump. At one point,
Jesus.
yeah, at one point it got up to like 90 cents. So it's already had a substantial move. Full disclosure. We're not calling this early. We're not getting it before it takes off. And this is the all-time chart. So it trended sideways for a long time. I wish we would have caught it here, but unfortunately we didn't. But we are at 72 cents. So we are catching it on a pullback. All my earned is almost zeros. And here's my wrapped ETH Keeta position where I plussed it up to $1,200. and I'm earning about $16 a day right now because I'm earning 508% because there's no
When did you
volume.
enter that?
This was about 2 weeks ago. And I've actually earned a couple of $100 already when I only had $580. So I had about half as much, and I earned a couple of $100. And so I rolled that couple of $100 back in, and some other earnings, from like my wrapped ETH USDC and my USDC Arrow positions, and lumped it all in there because I really want to
Hmm.
build this bag like I did my Plume bag. I
Right.
started out with about the same amount of Plume and ended up with like 5K without price appreciation, just in earning yield.
Mm.
I ended up with 5 grand worth of Plume now. So I'm hoping to do the same thing with Keeta because I would love to have a nice bag of Keeta as well. But you can see I have a 38% range on
Wow.
this liquidity pool. It hasn't gone out of range once in all this volatility. And the APR, this is the lowest I've seen it, is 508%. It's been as high as over 2,000%
KTK.
APR. It has been a great earner. It right up there with Plume. So, if you're into liquidity pools, this one is on Uniswap and it's on Base Chain. So super, super bullish on this.
When did it launch, actually? I mean, the
Um,
token.
well, it looks like it was March, like around March 19th is when the chart shows. And we'll get into the details here in a second.
Okay.
But here's their
Blockchain.
website. And so you can see, where networks connect. Keeta serves as a common ground for all payment networks and assets. And right out the gate,
Mhm.
something I want to mention that really caught my eye about Keeta was, and we'll get into what it is, but one is it's a DAG, or basically it's a, instead of a linear model like most blockchains, a DAG allows for parallel processing. And so it basically eliminates bottlenecks and high gas fees and things like that. But we'll get into it. The other thing that I really liked about Keeta was something called dynamic swaps. So I was watching a demo of their wallet, and what was really cool that I noticed is that you're able to swap between fiat, crypto assets, and tokenized assets seamlessly. So, like, if you have fiat and you
Mm.
buy, like a tokenized asset, or you have a crypto asset and you want to swap it for a tokenized asset, or if you have a tokenized asset and want to move it into fiat, it does it all seamlessly. And so I was really impressed with that. Let's see what this does.
Nice.
Welcome to Keeta Network, the blockchain that connects all networks. We created a unified platform for fast cross-chain transactions across payment networks and blockchains. Tokenized assets trade instantly and securely within Keeta, with optional digital ID verification for compliance and trust when needed. With 10 million transactions per second and 400 millisecond settlement times, Keeta is the foundation for a truly interconnected ecosystem. Fast, scalable, secure. Join Keeta, where networks connect.
Yeah. So it just launched. So again, you can move assets across multiple networks because of the interoperability. You can trade real world assets, like we talked about, tokenized assets, compliance, which is key. Anytime you're talking about anything that has to do with the finance world, if it's tokenized assets, if it's DeFi, whatever, if they're going to be tokenizing stocks and bonds and things like that, it's all going to have to be compliant, and you need that to be instant. So
Hmm.
say that somebody like Jeff, you're in the UK, I'm in the US. I own a certain stock that you're not allowed to own in the UK, and you try to buy it. This would prevent that happening because of KYC. Know your customer. Um,
Yeah.
there's depending on how legislation is drafted, and signed into law, there's going to be certain rules of the road and certain compliance issues. This, projects like this, Plume and Keeta, will ensure, and a lot of other projects that don't natively have that on their chain will probably sign up with projects like Keeta and Plume that have that, functionality to ensure that they stay aligned with compliance. Because you screw up in finance and you break a law, you're talking to the SEC, you're talking to, heavy hitters that can put you out of business. So compliance is going
Yeah.
to be huge.
Well, and real quick on that, when I
Go ahead.
worked at a couple EV companies, I worked at Tesla about 10 years ago, and then I went to another Chinese-based company, but we had a headquarters here in the Bay Area, and I was there 7 years, and we were working on getting the cars launched in the US, but first we launched in China, then Europe, and it was a pain getting these regulations, getting through the regulations and having to form fit the vehicle to those regulations in these certain regions because it's different, and the US had completely different regulations to where it was going to be years and years before we could produce vehicles here. So, this can help kind of set like the regulations for everyone around the world. That way you don't have to go and do that yourself. It takes the stress off, having that kind of baseline, like, okay, you're covered with these regulations, and I think that's really important because it's not the same in other countries as it is here. So you gotta clear those muddy waters because you don't want the
Absolutely.
whole
Absolutely.
SEC coming after you for bullshit.
Well, if like say that you're in a non-extradition country and you try to tokenize something, as a scam,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
these types of things are going to ensure that investors, are safe, with escrow and things like that. So, all right,
Yeah.
so let's go through a little bit of an overview, and I'm just going to read this off because again, I like to be, very accurate in the information that we put out. And I'll preface all this with this: we are not financial advisors. Obviously, this is not financial advice. We are conveying information. I highly stress you do your own research. There are so many details in these projects that we can't touch on them all. So
Yeah.
that being said, Keeta
Education.
Network, yes. Keeta Network is a layer one blockchain designed to unify asset transfers across diverse payment networks, enabling seamless cross chain transactions and bridging traditional finance or TradFi with decentralized finance DeFi. Mission: facilitates instant, compliant, and low cost cross border payments and asset transfers targeting both enterprise and consumer use cases. So that's very important. And I want to mention that, I hate to bag on projects, but I'm going to say this: XRP, they it is supposed to be focused on cross border payments. I do not see it being able to compete with projects like Keeta. And I was a top holder of XRP at one point. I had over 30,000 XRP. It was my largest holding. I was in the top 3% of holders for the entire bull market. And when it pumped, I sold it because I started seeing a lot of these robust projects like this coming out. And I just do not see how XRP can compete. I apologize. I could be wrong. You know, if you love XRP, you do you. But these projects that are able to do what, that single use case that it, is hyping. I see these as being more attractive to enterprise, adopters or institutions because it's multifaceted. It's a one-stop shop for everything they need. So, founded,
Mm.
established in 2022, headquartered in Santa Monica, California, initially launched as LFG Payments. Important to understand, it is a U.S.-based company. If you haven't been keeping up on the news, Trump administration has been talking extensively about there not being tax on profits made if you invest in US based blockchain. It's not, we're not there yet, but that is something to keep in mind, that when you start cashing out your Keeta, if they have that in some legislation, potentially you might not have capital gains. Might just want to stress that. Their key backing
Mhm.
is 17 million in a 2023 seed round at a 75 million valuation, backed by investors including former Google CEO Eric Schmidt. All right, now this is where I'm going to lean on you, Jeff, because you're my
That's a
tech.
lot of juice, man.
That's a lot of juice, but I'm going to lean on you
Yes.
because we're about to get techie. So the core technology, there is two
Hmm.
things to understand. One, there's regular blockchain technology, and it's very linear. There's a block, it closes out, a new block is formed, and it's basically like a page in a ledger. Each block is like a page in a ledger with transactions. Once
Hmm.
one closes, a new one opens. Once that one closes, a new one opens. And as it's doing that, it's validating the data, but very linearly. This Keeta is a DAG. And so what that is, let's see, it is a was it decyclic direct
Direct acyclic
acyclic
graph.
graph. All right. And so what that does is it avoids bottlenecks and it allows it to be a lot more scalable and secure. Is there anything you want to add to that, Jeff?
Well, it really helps keep the network more secure because of the way it kind of points to different nodes in the network versus traditional blockchains like that are more in a linear fashion could make it easier to hack the network, getting the majority, 51% of the nodes on the network. But as far as the DAGs, just the way they point to each other and communicate with on the network makes it harder for it to be compromised. And that's why the military and stuff is using it, the Department of Defense and stuff,
Yeah.
because why wouldn't they just use Ethereum that's been around for a long time or some other, it's like, no, it's secure, but for what they need, they need, certain nodes to be, it's just different tech, more secure, low low fees, and like you said, I heard people, it's what do they have, the 10,000 or 100,000 transaction throughput. A lot of I heard someone kind of say that now the throughput and transactions per second don't necessarily matter because all the blockchains now have high throughput, but it's what does your blockchain offer, like specialty wise? How are you developing it? What can you utilize? And like with Plume, you can take pieces to help build your RWA chain or whatever it is that you want to build. So or Celestia, where it's a modular blockchain where you have all these different layers that conduct transactions and validate the network that helps alleviate the mainnet stuff. So there's all these cool ways of making the blockchains better that can scale, but at some point, transactions per second, that's not going to be one of the shining stars for a blockchain. So you want it to be
Well,
secure and low
security
fees,
is
and the
paramount.
KYC,
Well,
with the Coinbase
security is
shit.
paramount. Especially when you're talking about government. You're talking about finance.
Mhm.
Things like that. They'd rather it be secure than fast. If it can be both, awesome. But and it's 10 million transactions per
Or 10
second.
million.
Yeah,
Okay, damn. Yeah.
yeah. So
Oh.
so yeah, the one project that Jeff was talking about that the government's using is Constellation DAG, which is
Hmm.
already, it's called Project Iron Spider, and it's being used with the Air Force and
It's a
a bunch
badass
of
name.
other government programs, and has been for a couple of years now. So it's very well established. But and another project that this channel is very bullish on. All right,
Ooh.
so Keeta
Uh,
script. Let's see.
Oh, they use a
Well,
virtual DAG, which makes it less complex.
okay, I'll have to dive deeper into that. So
Well, and real quick, the KYC thing with the Coinbase compromise recently,
mm,
where they worked with overseas contractors to get the customers' information and doxed stuff. So
oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that was just
having
recently.
this KYC integration, you can have blockchains verify your information without being exposed, and you can't. They have certain smart contracts that are secure, but
Yeah,
that's another thing that's good to have.
that's a those are the ZK or like roll
ZK
ups or something
proofs,
like that.
and
Yeah, the
that's
zero
one type.
knowledge.
I think that I don't know how the DAG blockchains do the KYC, but I'm sure it's some type of zero knowledge. But that's you know I'm not too privy on the software side or the developer side, but that's something that would be we should find somebody that's actually a blockchain developer and kind of uh, have them on the show, and we can just do a deep dive on some of this stuff because
Yeah,
I'd like
no,
to
I can
learn
definitely
a little more.
reach out to their team and see if we can get them on. Okay, it looks like DC says this uses a X.509 cert. I have never heard of that, but I appreciate that, DC. I'll have to look into that. Like I said, there's only so much prep that you can do on some of these projects because I mean the tech just moves so freaking fast.
I got it
All
right here.
right, what's that?
I said I got it pulled up right here.
We'll go
It's
ahead and throw it up on the screen.
it's oh yeah, make it so it's a digital certificate that adheres to the X509 standard defined by
Okay.
the International Telecommunication Union. It's widely used in public key infrastructure, so PKI, to establish the identity of entities, individuals, organizations, or devices, and enable secure communication over networks like the internet. So,
All right.
okay.
Cool. Yeah. Jay says apparently Keeta will also steal your girl. They're gonna have to rebrand to Jody, I guess. So yeah,
Okay.
it's
So there's use cases
so
and
they're claiming a post-quantum cryptography or a PQC designed with extensible cryptographic algorithms to support post-quantum security, ensuring long-term resilience. So there's been a
mm,
lot of talk about concerns because obviously blockchain technology and just in general DAGs and blockchain the cryptography is all about security. It's about moving value. It's about moving information, but doing it in a way that you can trust the data and that it's not hasn't been compromised. So people are worried about with quantum computing that potentially quantum computers could crack it. So not saying that it can't be done, but they are claiming that they have a post quantum or a PQC. So that's something that we'll have to look deeper into as well. So here's some key features. We have cross-chain interoperability. So it acts as a unifying layer for direct blockchain to blockchain transactions, enabling seamless asset transfers across heterogeneous networks. Supports integration with traditional payment systems like ACH, what people use for direct deposit, things like that. SEPA and SWIFT, and if you're familiar with XRP, um, you know, they were for a while claiming they were going to replace Swift. Swift is the old messaging system of cross-border payments. So, like, if you want to send a payment, from one country to another, it's slow, it's expensive. On the Swift old traditional Swift network, it took 5 to 10 business days. Sometimes it didn't get there. I mean, it was terrible. So, blockchain technology, and in this case, a DAG would definitely solve that pain point. I personally have sent family members overseas, you know, liquidity or money instantly. Using
Mhm.
different cryptos. So atomic swaps. Atomic swaps are trustless peer-to-peer exchanges of cryptocurrencies or tokenized assets or fiat across different blockchains without intermediaries. Intermediaries being a human. So you don't like I said with Swift, you don't have to say, okay, call your bank. I want to send this much money. A human puts it in. It goes to another human who verifies the funds are available and whatever it is they do, and then it goes to a final human that says, "All right, we got it." It's no need for any of that. That's what speeds up the process, and that is what eliminates human error. So do with that as you
Mm.
will. So it ensures either both parties receive their assets or the transaction is voided. So, like if I'm selling a piece of property, Jeff is buying the piece of property, it ensures there's an escrow in there. Just like if you buy a property in regularly, that there's usually an intermediary that will take possession of the property. They take possession of the money for that the person that's buying the property, and then whenever they have both of those, then they're like, all right, Jeff, here's the property you bought. Mike, here's the money for the property you sold. This does that all automatically through smart contracts, which is the foundation of DeFi. So that's important. Let me know if there's any questions, Jeff, that need to come up.
No, I I said Keeta is cool, but ketamine is really cool.
Ketamine.
Ketamine.
well,
Oh,
ketamine will make you ketarded. So
oh, there was a sign. No, at the festival last weekend, there was a sign that said John F. Ketamine, and it had JFK with a horse.
oh, nice.
It was so funny. Oh man, who are you,
So this is
Charles
something I've
Hoskinson?
never heard of that's new as well. So Keeta utilizes a hashed time lock contract, an HTLC
Hmm.
smart contract that enforce transaction conditions using cryptographic hashes and time-bound deadlines. So initiation, party A generates a cryptographic hash and deposits their assets. For example, Keeta tokens into an HTLC on the Keeta network, locking it with a hash and a time lock, for example, 24 hours. The counterparty action, party B, on a different blockchain, for example, Ethereum, deposits their asset, Ethereum, into a corresponding HTLC using the same hash. So that's what connects them.
Mm.
Execution, party A reveals the cryptographic key to unlock Party B's asset, simultaneously allowing Party B to use the same key to unlock Party A's asset. Completion or reversion. If both parties fulfill the conditions before the time lock expires, the swap completes. If not, the assets are refunded to their original owners, ensuring no loss. That is that is big. So, say that there is like if a transaction's time sensitive, for whatever reason. Um, you know, you know, Jeff wants to invest in a company, but he only
Hmm.
wants to do it, before they go public or do an IPO. I'm just using this as a really obscure example. And he's like,
Hmm.
I'm going to, invest in your company, but only before you go public. And he puts that timestamp on it to when they're going public. If they, accept and, give him his shares and stuff like that before they go public, it will all finalize. If they go public and, that time expires and then they try to do it, then it won't happen.
Hmm.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's really the huge benefit of these blockchains too, is you can set up smart contracts to pay people or contractors. And if they fulfill a certain duty, you can have that contract execute and then they get paid. But if they don't fulfill their job, you like, fuck you, I'm getting my money back. So
yeah,
these are kind of safe ways for you to mitigate your risk and stuff. Yeah, is really
Oh,
powerful.
dude, I just thought of something. Like vesting, vesting shares. Like when you work for a
Mm,
company and you get paid out in shares. Like if you decided that you wanted to get paid in shares, and they wanted to have it to where it vested, at a certain time, potentially could be used for that.
oh shit, yeah. When DC says Keeta doesn't have smart contracts yet, these things are natively on chain now.
Well, I
And
mean, if they
their
don't
smart
have smart
contract,
contracts, then that's another thing that they could partner with, with Plume, because Plume has smart contracts. So,
yeah, they build the framework for
that's what I
you.
was talking about before, where these partnerships
Hmm.
come into play, is they can add functionality to each other,
Hmm.
and so yeah, no, very very interesting, and appreciate your comments there, DC.
Hmm.
Um, that's like the third time that you've given some good alpha, so thank you. Um, so Kita's implementation, it leverages Keeta Network's high-speed DAG architecture and Keeta virtual machine to execute atomic swaps with sub-second finality, 400 millisecond settlement, supports swaps between Kita's native KTA token, stablecoins, and
Mm.
tokenized RWAs across compatible blockchains, such as Ethereum Base and Binance Smart Chain, integrates compliance features such as KYC or Know Your Customer and AML, which is basically compliance checks, into the
Hmm.
swap process, ensuring regulatory adherence without compromising decentralization, which is key. The benefits: trustless, eliminates the need for centralized exchanges or custodians, reducing counterparty risk and fees. Cost efficient, Kita's low transaction cost, 50 to 70% less than traditional systems, make atomic
Mm.
swaps economical even for small transactions, which is key. Anybody that's used Ethereum knows that. Cross chain flexibility enables direct swaps between assets on different blockchains, enhancing liquidity and interoperability. The ability for liquidity to move freely is going to be key in DeFi, traditional finance, and whatever this retarded fish frog baby that the two together ends up creating. Is the whole point is going to be that liquidity has to be able to move quickly, efficiently, and effectively, you know, securely and cheaply. Security.
Yeah, and you want them to be able to talk to different blockchains too, because of the whole fragmented liquidity. The Sunrise layer project is working on solving that issue where you have these liquidity that's stuck on one network and you can't access it from another. So that would be key. Oh, I was just about to pop that up. Yeah, these anchors are interesting.
Yeah, and like I said, and we appreciate the comments in the chat. I mean, it's impossible to know everything about these projects. So, we definitely appreciate you guys letting us know. Yeah, no, it's my meow. She decided that she needed some attention. So yeah, it's sorry about that. But
Yeah, you got the one. I got four. I got to keep them out, especially during the stream, because they'll be all over.
oh yeah, no, she's I love her. I found her outside my cabin. I'm a homesteader, and I she showed up one morning about 2-3 in the morning outside messing around, and she decided she was going to stay. So I don't mind. All
So
right,
security?
benefits. Yeah, yeah. Benefits: trustless. We went over that. Cost efficient. Cross
No, I was saying
chain.
security. You were on security, the last
What's
topic.
that?
You were going to touch on security?
No, no. Oh yeah, security.
Yeah.
HTLCs and Kita's post-quantum cryptography and tamper-proof transactions. Use cases: swapping KTA for stablecoins like USDC on Ethereum for cross-border payments, exchanging tokenized RWAs, for example, real estate tokens, across networks without intermediaries. So anybody that's ever bought a piece of real estate, I've bought and sold I don't know how many. Um, it is insane the amount of people that are in the process. real estate is tokenized. A lot of things like liens. If somebody puts a lien on a property,
Oh, I think he dropped.
sorry, I lost you there for a second. But so lost you there for a second. So so yeah, real estate. I don't know how much you heard about that, but there's an insane amount of people in the process.
Yeah, the
So
liens.
yeah, so basically, this technology, not just Keeta, but just blockchain in general, is going to streamline the process. Like if somebody needs to put a lien on a property, it can be done on chain. When you're going to buy a property, it's going to automatically check if there's any liens against the property. You know, there's a lot of these processes that we used to have to rely on people will now be automated. You know, it'll be transparent, which is going to be key. The challenges requires both blockchains to support HTLC compatible smart contracts. So it does have smart contracts. They're just not traditional smart contracts. It's an HTLC smart contract. Limiting compatibility with some legacy networks. So that is going to be a hurdle. You know, just as far as interoperability. Time lock deadlines must be carefully set to balance security and user convenience. On-chain compliance checks may add slight overhead through optimized by Keeta's architecture. Native tokenization, built-in token and rule engines allow issuers, to create and manage digital or real-world assets with customizable compliance rules, for example, whitelisting and transaction limits. Ideal for stablecoins and tokenized RWAs, enhancing cross-network liquidity. And then regulatory compliance. We've already talked about KYC, AML, and BSA protocols using the on-chain, and there it is, X.509 certificate-based voting and digital identity verification.
Nice.
So, fiat and crypto integration. Oh, here we go.
He said Scallywag also will be the only L1 compatible with South Korea's new KYC AML laws. Oh, I didn't know that they had new.
We'll have to, and that goes along with compliance. So again, that is why compliance is key. Is without compliance, these projects are not going to be able to operate in certain jurisdictions. So, and in the U.S., state by state, there's going to be compliance things. It's not just countries. I mean, potentially it could be counties. Especially when you're dealing with real estate. There's a lot of county rules that have to do with real estate. So compliance is going to be key.
Welcome, Killer Kid.
Yeah,
got a lot of the Keeta. Man, the DAG ecosystem is legit.
No, right? No, freaking the keytards are in the house. Yeah, I like it. So yeah, no, we're gonna be a lot more Keeta in the future. Like I said, I mean, I just got into this.
Ooh.
Transaction throughput, subnet partitioning enabled.
Did we lose you? Is it him or me? Is it you or me?
It's my Starlink. We have a windstorm going on right now, so I'm sure the trees are getting in the way. Sorry about that, everybody.
The Discord community, Killer Kid said, "Is it? I'll have to look into. Okay, Keytard Discord is the best time. Okay, I'll have to find that and put it in the show notes."
Yeah, and definitely join our Discord. We just started a Discord, that's for DeFi and airdrops. And we have a great startup community. We just started it a couple weeks ago. but yeah, we have a great community in there, and we talk about decentralized finance and airdrops, and just ways to make money. So we do talk about these projects, and we're pretty focused on DeFi and RWAs, and a lot of projects that are in that use case. But let's see, launched on base to leverage lower fees despite Keeta being okay. I'm not going to get into price predictions. I don't like doing price predictions. But yeah, the use cases: cross-border payments, stablecoin and RWA integration, consumer applications. It has an enterprise focus. Launched in June of 2023 for business to business or B2B payments in the US, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, and the UK and the EU by invitation only. Um, Competitors compete with Stripe, PayPal, Remitly, MoneyGram, Western Union, blockchain networks like Stellar and XRP. Differentiates with lower fees, faster settlement, and native compliance. Unique selling points is obviously its speed, its settlement time, and the KYC AML integration, unlike Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain. And the atomic swaps is what really caught my eye. And that enables the
Mm.
trustless cross-chain asset exchanges, reducing reliance on centralized platforms.
Yeah.
So for the most part, mainnet launched. We went over that. Regulatory alignment, developer ecosystem, Keeta script and Keeta virtual machine, and the
So their main net
risk.
is live,
Yes, it is.
or is it okay? Because I'm looking at the test net right now. I just set up a wallet, um,
Yeah, it was
but
like March. I'm want to say
okay.
I'm wanting to say that somebody in the chat, I think it was DC, said that it was in March. Or no, it was Ja War said it was in March.
Let's see.
So that's pretty much. I mean, the time that we have. It's 6 now. We have in our Discord, we have a live call where we all do video chat and just talk about liquidity pools and things like that we're going to be jumping on. But before we go, I'll share this.
Oh, no,
So
mainnet launch at end of June. So the test net went live.
oh,
Okay.
okay, all right, all right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
we can
so
dive into that on Monday's show. Let's do a part 2 on Monday,
all
and I
right.
got the wallet set up, and we can dive into the test net. So if y'all want to come back Monday night, same time, I'll dive into, because I just set one up on our DCA profile, so we can get that going as well. Because for those who don't know, we are airdrop hunting free to like testnet projects that don't require any money at all, because we want to see how much we can earn for free, and then you turn that into DeFi liquidity pools and earn free crypto with that. So we want to show you how you can start with basically nothing and
Yeah.
build a bag. So this would be awesome if they do have some kind of airdrop or incentive for testing out the network. I don't know. It's always a hit or miss, but
Well,
it's
they had
good
a
to.
faucet on the website here. Um,
Yeah,
they had
I
a
have that.
faucet, and if you go to that, you can send 10 testnet KTA to
Hmm.
somebody, and so I mean that might be part of it. But um,
Oh no, that's to your wallet. You put in your address, and then that's how you and then you can send it from your wallet and swap,
oh,
because there's a
gotcha,
swap
gotcha.
feature on the wallet.
So
I just
so
see
those of you
KTA
that
there.
well, those of you that aren't familiar, Jeff is our resident subject matter expert on airdrops, and I try to be the subject matter expert on DeFi, and so that's what he was
Pretty good
talking
so
about.
far.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what he's talking about is he's going to be doing the airdrop portion and getting us as much, we're not going to inject a single dollar of our own money into it or liquidity of any kind.
Mm.
He's going to do nothing but airdrop, get airdrops, free airdrops, and we're going to use that liquidity, and I'm going to DeFi it, and we're going to see how big that we can grow a portfolio. on 100% free. And then
Mhm.
at the end of the bull run, we're going to do a giveaway and give a portion of it out to somebody in the community. So, make sure that you're following us, liking, sharing, help us grow the community, and let's all get rich together. But
Yeah,
this
no
is the
airdrops at the moment for Keeta,
okay, all right.
which that's okay.
But this is the liquidity pool that I'm in. So
Mm.
again, I took a bunch of the positions that I had and collected this week's yield that I earned and plussed up this position. I had about $400 or $500 that I earned this week, and so I stuck that into more Kita and wrapped ETH, and this is the lowest I've seen it. 500% APR is the lowest I've seen it. At one point, it was up to 2,600%, and because I've already earned a couple of $100 when I just had 580 in here. And so now I'm up to 12, almost 1,200. And I'm going to see, like I said, I'm going to see if I can get this up to like 5 grand, before it pumps, because I would love to see this, be another 50, 60 grand, play, once Keeta really takes off in this bull run. So with that, you got any closing thoughts, Jeff?
No, I appreciate all of you out there in the chat, especially interacting with us and providing more information and insight to Keeta, and just sharing your knowledge and helping to educate us as well, because we're still learning. I've been in this space for, I bought some Bitcoin 10 years ago, but was kind of dabbling in and out. But I've been heavy the past 5 years, and I'm still learning a lot. I've learned a lot from you, Vet, with the DeFi side of it. And even though you're a lot newer than I am, you have a lot of DeFi experience compared to me, because you're, deep diving into all these pools and getting the safest, investment styles, approaches, that you're not just investing in some shit coin that's gonna
No,
rug, so you're
I'm a very conservative investor. When
and
I'm a little bit degen, but I'm not super degen.
yeah, and it's definitely helped me earn a lot and form my DeFi strategy. So, and like Jawar said, I like getting money together. Yeah, we want to help each other out, and that's what we're here for. Help provide this information, and I, like you said, with the airdrop stuff, I participate in as many airdrop stuff as I can, because I just want to. I don't know. I'm a degen like that. I love the tech. I'm an engineer. I'm a nerd, and I just want to be in it as much as I can, because at the end of the day, one of them will hit. So, and I like learning about these projects and bringing you guys these airdrop information, because if it can help change my life, as it has, I want it to help change your life too. And if you can earn it for free and use it into DeFi and earn free rewards, it's like an infinite money glitch. And
Yeah.
that's what I want people to really understand, how to utilize this and take advantage. Because if you can earn some rewards that'll help pay off a bill, or help, with a medical emergency or something, man, it can, because it's helped me in the past in certain situations. So I just want to stress that, if
Well,
don't fade this stuff, even if it's a 0.5% a day or 2 days,
well,
compound it.
I mean, crypto is great, to buy and to hodl and stuff, but I mean, nothing's better than earning money no matter what the market does. Like, I mean, when
Hmm.
the market's dumping, I'm still earning yield, because I mean, I have a bunch of lending and a bunch of full range positions that no matter what the price does, I'm constantly earning. It's like, yeah, I'm not earning as much, like this USDC arrow position here. I harvested, it was like $50, that I earned, I'm earning like 32%, 32 to 40%. APR. Come on. You're um, it's it might not seem like a lot, but 30-40% per year is a lot of freaking money. A traditional investment, if you make 10% a year, that's huge. I mean,
Huge.
I haven't seen this dip below 30% yet. And I've been doing this for like 6, 7. I've been in this one for like 6, 7 months, and it's just been making me like about 10, just shy of 10%, off and on. And no, I'd say it's making me probably about 5%, per month.
Fuck.
Um, so yeah, I mean it's give or take, because I mean sometimes it's up in the 40s and sometimes it's down in the 30s. But
60% a year.
no, it really is, and I can't stress that enough. And then you still get price appreciation. Not as
Mhm.
much, but you still get most of the price appreciation when the prices pump. So it's like
Mhm.
why just hodl when you can have a portion of your holdings in DeFi, earning like this? It's why sit on your bags? I wish I would have found DeFi sooner. Don't let
Mhm.
things like impermanent loss. Impermanent loss isn't as scary as you think it is. It kept me out of DeFi for a long time, and I kick myself for it now, because impermanent loss is exactly that, impermanent. The only time that you lock in those losses is when you rebalance or you exit the position when it goes out, down on the downside. That's the
Mhm.
only time that you're really locking in losses. Of course, when the price is going up, you're not might not be making as much as hodling, but the whole time the markets are dumping and going sideways, you're earning yield that should offset that. And in that yield that you're earning, like in Uniswap, it's in that token. So like my Keeta wrapped ETH position, I'm earning both Keeta and wrapped ETH at the same time. So I'm
Mhm.
stacking both of those bags. So just please follow us, or follow somebody that is going to teach you DeFi. We're one of the few that's teaching DeFi. This is like a well guarded secret, because I couldn't find anybody. I had to just make the fucking mistakes myself, and then try to start teaching people. But learn DeFi and just use a portion, like 5 or 10%. I started out with 20% of my portfolio, or actually I think it was like 15. And now my portfolio looks like this, where my DeFi portfolio is almost 25 grand, and my bull run portfolio is, so it's almost, I'm a third. So I've gone from like 15% to like just over 30%. So even with the markets being down, because I started my DeFi portfolio back in December, or October,
November.
November.
Yeah, right before
And
the pump.
yeah. And so I've already done the math. If we go back to those highs, my DeFi portfolio is going to be twice that of my bull run portfolio. So I'm going to have, probably, like 75, 80 grand just in my DeFi portfolio, just because of just stacking the yield. I haven't cashed out
Mhm.
anything. I've just been plussing up my positions and growing my DeFi portfolio. So compounding yield, and that compounds, like every couple of seconds, is huge.
Mhm.
So I'll just end with that. I could go on and on, but please like and follow us. We do this for free. We don't have sponsors. We don't get paid. This is 100% free. Our Discord is free. We have tracking sheets for DeFi, all
Mhm.
free. Everything's free, free. So check
Pretty
us
free.
out. Hope to see you again. Until next time, Veteran Crypto out.